You are now listening to the one and only Nancy Ruffin.
What is my purpose? What am I supposed to be doing with my life? How many of us have asked ourselves these very questions or some variation of them throughout our lives? Realizing our purpose and discovering what we are meant to do doesn't happen overnight. And in fact, a lot of us believe that it's something that we have to go in search of, not realizing that our purpose is already within us. It's not something that we have to create. It's not something that we have to seek out. What we have to do, however, is rediscover what our purpose is, reconnect with what our Creator has equipped us with from the moment that we were born. So when we're talking about purpose, it's really a journey of self-discovery and a reconnecting with the infinite power that we are all born with. And on this week's episode of The Nancy Ruffin Show, I want to talk about pursuing purpose. And how do we know that the path that we're on, that the journey that we're on is in direct correlation with what we've been called to do in this life? So sit tight, and when we come back, we're going to get into this conversation. You are tuned in to The Nancy Ruffin Show, a digital global classroom where individuals across all ages, backgrounds, and career levels tune in for guidance and motivation to live life on their own terms. Hosted by award-winning author, transformation coach, and the self-proclaimed Latina Oprah, The Nancy Ruffin Show is where inspiring thought leaders, modern-day influencers, and social game changers come to discuss their own personal journeys and have real conversations about the journey to success. It's where the next generation of leaders come to tap into their potential, ignite their fire, and expand their self-awareness. So if you're ready to power up and blaze trails of positive change, then you're in the right place. Let's get started. Welcome back, guys, to the Nancy Ruffin Show. It is your host, Nancy Ruffin, and I'm just excited to be back. I'm happy that you have decided to tune in and join me for yet another episode of this work that I'm just completely passionate about. It has been a rather busy week for me. I hope that it's been busy and productive for you as well. I think sometimes we may find ourselves in the midst of a bunch of things happening back to back and things that we feel may be overwhelming us at the moment. And for me, this past week has been that. But I'm just grateful for the gift of being busy, because the opposite of that is not being busy, right? And not having any work to do. So I'm not complaining. I'm just kind of just putting it out there that I've had a lot on my plate and that I'm really looking forward to having some downtime in the upcoming weeks. Last week was Easter. This past weekend, I had the absolute honor to have been hired to give a keynote / lead in a women's empowerment workshop in Connecticut, which was hosted by Pam Rosario. She is a young Latina blogger, beautiful woman. She is a mom, and she is making a name for herself out in Connecticut, doing very similar work to the work that I do within the New York tri-state area. And I think that it's important that there are more of us doing work that brings women together, that's uniting us, that's allowing us and giving us the safe space to remove our masks and really see each other for who we are in our humanity, in our flaws, in our fears, and being able to share that with each other, because it is in that moment, it's in those processes that we learn that we're not alone. So many of us go through trials, tribulations, challenges, losses, disappointments, grief, and oftentimes we believe that we are the only ones going through something. And the truth is that there are so many of us going through the same or very similar things in our lives, but we learn to show up in the world with this mask and with this facade because we believe that if we allow others to see us in our vulnerability, that we somehow are viewed as weak. And in fact, during one of the exercises that I had the women do, this past weekend in the workshop, when we got to the sharing part of it, there were a number of women who were brought to tears, and they were trying to hold their tears back because, again, they were afraid of letting others see them. And a lot of that stems from this idea that we have to be strong all the time. And one of the things that I mentioned to them was that allowing others to see us in our most vulnerable states, giving ourselves permission to cry and to release is not a sign of weakness, but in fact a sign of strength, because it takes an incredibly strong person to allow others to see us when we're our most vulnerable, because we're laying it all out there and we're giving them access to a space within us that is hurting, that is wounded, that is reaching out or calling out for love, acceptance, to be seen. And there's so much strength and power in being able to do that. And I was encouraging the women, don't hold it. Don't hold back the tears, because what the tears are doing is that it's bringing up whatever you have inside that needs to be released. And then the only way that we can heal ourselves is by releasing. It's by really connecting with that emotion head on and trying to figure out what is stirring that emotion in us, what is causing that reaction in us, and then taking the appropriate steps and actions to heal from that, right? It's about ripping off the Band-Aid that we have placed on that wound and really giving it the air to breathe and the oxygen that it needs to heal. And so I don't know who out there is listening to this. I don't know who out there is holding back something that needs to be healed, but I encourage you that whatever it is, let it out. Allow yourself to connect with that emotion. Allow yourself to connect with the experience that is bringing that emotion out of you. And then do whatever is necessary to heal from that and move forward. Because until you release all of that negativity, all of that bad energy, all of the things that are holding you back and keeping you down, you're never going to be able to soar and fly and really step into the purpose that God has called you to live up to in this lifetime. And so this week, I want to talk a little bit about what it means to pursue your purpose, because that was the theme of the workshop. It was entitled Live on Purpose, and I believe it was purposely done, purposely called that as an ode to my book, which you all know I wrote 3 years ago, Live on Purpose, the award-winning book, I might add. And, it was really me kind of guiding the women through understanding what their purpose is. So when we come back, we're going to get into that conversation. Have you ever thought about starting your own podcast? When I was first trying to get this podcast off the ground, I had so many questions. Like, how do I record an episode? How do I get my show into all of the apps people like to listen to? And how do I make money from my podcast? And the answer to every one of these questions was super simple. Anchor. Anchor is a one-stop shop for recording, hosting, and distributing your podcast. Best of all, it's 100% free and super easy to use. And now, Anchor can match you with great sponsors who want to advertise on your podcast, which means that you can get paid to podcast right away. So if you've always wanted to start a podcast and make money doing it, then head over to anchor.fm/start to join me and the diverse community of podcasters already using Anchor. I can't wait to hear your podcast. What is my purpose? The never-ending question or the never-ending search for what we're supposed to be doing with our lives during our time here on earth. This is a question that never gets old. It's one that is asked of me often. And so it begs the next question: how does one discover what their purpose is? And more importantly, what do you do once you've identified it? So I think that in order to kind of get into this conversation, we first have to define the word purpose, right? What does that mean? So on an intellectual level, purpose is the reason for which something is done or created, or in layman's terms, it's the reason that something exists, right? But on a spiritual level, purpose is the reason why you, me, and every living thing on the universe was created by God. It's the reason that we were placed on this planet. And in short, it's the reason that we exist. And I think that many of us go through our lives attaching different labels to ourselves. And then as a result of those labels, we begin to believe that those things are tied to our purpose. Sometimes it could be, but more likely than not, what we do as far as it relates to work or career or things of that nature have less to do with our purpose and more to do with seeking out work and doing things that either we enjoy or that we're good at. And sometimes those things can lead to a discovery of our purpose. But for the sake of this conversation, I just want to remind you that you are not the labels that you have attached to yourself, right? A lot of times we describe ourselves by what our careers are, by our accomplishments, the titles that we hold. For example, I'm a doctor, or I have a MBA, or I'm a professional athlete, or I'm a singer. And a lot of times these things don't define who we are, right? They're just things that we do. Because when we look at who we are, at our core, we are not any of those things, right? Because if we were to suddenly lose our job, if we were stripped of our titles and our accolades, we wouldn't stop being who we are because we no longer had these things, right? You would still be you. So when we're talking about purpose, and if it's not our labels and if it's not the things that we do, then what is it? And so this past weekend, at the workshop, we spent a lot of time trying to dig through this question. And I think that it's something that many of us, when we reach a certain point in our lives, we start to think about that. And we're like, well, our lives have to mean more. There has to be something bigger that I'm meant to do with my life. And when we think about purpose, is greater than our own personal fulfillment, right? So finding our purpose has less to do with us and more to do with the impact that we have on others or the contribution that we are giving to this world, right? When we are living, walking, and just being in our purpose, that is not about us. It is about how we are using our God-given gifts, skills, talents to be in service of other people. And when we're talking about the reason that we exist, right, that is the reason that we exist. We exist on this earth to be representatives of our Creator so that He is using us in every space that we enter, in every room that we are in every conversation that we are having with another person as his messenger. We are here to do his work. And the way that we do that is by using our individual gifts, our individual talents, those things that we are exceptional at, and using them in a way that is helping someone else. And a lot of times when we're thinking about purpose, people tend to think that purpose has to be this big, huge impact that they're having on the world, and globally. And purpose is not that at all. One of the things that I want to talk about is this idea of purpose in position, right? It's about understanding that in every position that you are in, wherever you are placed, there is purpose there. And sometimes the purpose for you in being in a certain room is because you need to convey a message to someone in that room that needs to hear it. And sometimes the purpose of you being somewhere has nothing to do with you at all, but instead, God has positioned you there because you need to hear what someone else is saying. Or maybe he is connecting you with someone that is going to change the trajectory or the direction of your life. And so we need to get out of this idea that purpose has to be big and bold and grand to matter. One of the stories that I shared at the workshop was that one of the most critical people in history is Mary, Jesus' mother, right? And we don't know much about Mary except that she was the mother of Jesus, right? And so she is important because without her, we would not have Jesus, right? So Mary's purpose in her lifetime was to be the vessel that God was using to deliver to the world our Savior, right? And so she wasn't this big, huge name at the time that she lived, right? Jesus was persecuted. Everyone challenged him. They didn't believe that he was the Lord, and she was his mother. So at the time, she played a really small role, but we would learn in time that she is a huge, critical part of our existence, that had it not been for her, we would not have Jesus who has died for us, right? So that we could have eternal life. And so when you think about your own life and what that means, how is it that you and that your life is having an impact? Whether it's on someone in your immediate family, maybe it's at work, maybe it's on social media with some of the things that you're sharing and how you're connecting with others and how people look to you or turn to you to be that listening ear, or maybe they seek you because they trust and value your wisdom and your opinion, right? So instead of looking for purpose to be some huge grand thing, I need you to start thinking about finding purpose in the position that you are currently in. Because what we know is that God uses every experience, every connection to get us to that next level or that next phase in our life. So at every point in our life, there is purpose, right? It's not that you have to look for something else. You already are equipped with the reason for your existence. And you have to be able to identify what your special gifts are. What are the things that God has endowed you with? What has he given you? What has he equipped you with that makes you special? That people connect to because you're the one that's delivering it. You have to identify those gifts, and then you have to nurture them, and you have to make yourself better. And all of that requires practice. There is this idea that you're supposed to know what your gifts are, what your talents are, and that you just go out into the world and use them, not realizing that those things require development. You think that LeBron James, although he was gifted with the skills of being an exceptional basketball player, that he can just go and show up the day of his games and perform, up to the expectations of his fans, of his coach, of his team? No. This man has to still, and I don't know if I think he retired recently, but when he was, in the game, or maybe it was doing weight, I don't know, one of them retired. But the point that I'm trying to make is that to develop those skills and to be great and to be exceptional, you have to work at it. He was practicing every single day since he was a child, from childhood through adolescence, through those first years in the NBA. They practice every single day. You think Beyonce could go on the homecoming stage and deliver the show that she delivered just by showing up? You don't think that there was practice put into that? That there was rehearsals day and night, making sure that her voice was up to par, making sure that her performance was up to par, making sure that everyone on her team knew exactly what to do at the exact right moment so that it could all come together for that phenomenal show that she put on in Coachella? It's not enough that she is a great singer. She has to work at developing and maintaining that skill. So what makes you think that just because you have this skill or this gift that you don't have to work at it? Right? And it's in that journey, it's in that process, it's in that work that you are using what God has given you to live out your purpose every single day. So stop looking for some big recognition or for some big sign that says, hey, this is your purpose. Because that's not what purpose is about. Purpose is about having something that is bigger and greater than ourselves, right? It's not about us. It really isn't. And people are in search of their purpose, thinking that it's me, but it's not about me or you at all, but it's about the contribution and the impact that we are having on each other, on our fellow brothers and sisters in this world, and how we're using what we have been gifted to help someone get through whatever they need to in their own life. Our purpose tends to sit in the intersection between what we care about most and where we can contribute most to helping others in some way, right? And so maybe you're a blogger, right? Maybe you're a fashion blogger and you're just really great at putting styles together. And you can't see or find your purpose in that because it's not this huge thing that might be recognized, right? Or you're not getting the accolades for being it. But you know what? I bet you that there's someone out there looking at your feed that you are helping maybe pick out their next interview outfit because they have no idea what to wear or how to present themselves for a certain event. And they're looking to you to see what it is that they need to be wearing, right? Some of you are natural, curl bloggers. And I will tell you will help me all the time because I'm clueless about how to maintain my natural hair. And so there's purpose in what you're doing right now. And you have to be able to recognize that and give yourself enough credit for what you are doing. And maybe because you enjoy doing it, you don't realize that there's purpose in there because maybe you think that purpose requires struggle or this huge effort on your part. And if you're not exerting, X amount of effort, that it's not purposeful work that you're doing. So you have to really commit yourself to something greater than yourself. Whatever it is that you're doing, it has to be greater than you. You can't do it for the recognition. You can't do it for the accolades. You can't do it for the money or for the status or for the traditional measures of success, because purpose is not tied to any of those things. Purpose is tied to the impact that you are having on the life of someone else. So maybe you're not a blogger, maybe you're not doing anything, maybe you can't see what your purpose is, but I bet you that at work, you're serving a purpose to someone there that you don't even realize. So ask yourself, what is it that you're naturally great at if you're in search of this purpose that you don't need to be in search of because it's already in you? It's those things that you're naturally great at. It's those things that you enjoy doing. It's those things that you would do for free if you never earned a single cent or got any recognition for. It's your story. What have you overcome? What challenges has God not put you through, but what challenges has God delivered you from and seen you through? What things that were designed to break you didn't break you and you were able to overcome them, right? What wisdom, what experience have you gained, or what life lesson have you learned that you can share with others to help them get through that? How can you use your own life to help someone else? You know, a lot of times we don't realize that our greatest gifts emerge from our biggest adversities. Like those things that really break us or that really knock us down, and we're on bended knees crying to God and telling him, God, why have you forsaken me? Why am I going through this? Why are you doing this to me? Why am I suffering? I can't deal with this pain. I can't deal with this loss. I can't deal with this betrayal. I can't deal with this disappointment. But God puts us in those positions, in those situations, because he is developing something in us. He is developing a strength. He is giving us the ability to use our experience to help someone else in the future. Because those experiences are the ones where we're developing our strengths. And they're adding a deeper dimension to who we are as people. I mean, because let's keep it real. Strength isn't built during the times when everything is going right, when we're living our best life, right? That's not where strength is built. It's when our world is turned completely upside down that we discover who we are and what we're truly made of. So don't underestimate the gifts that lay beneath some of the hardest moments in your life, because oftentimes it's those moments that are pointing you towards your highest purpose. And so I really want to leave you with this message. Just focus on doing good. Focus on doing good. How can you use what you have right now, where you are right now, to do good? How can you find purpose in your position? Think about the problems you're naturally great at solving, the needs you are uniquely positioned to fill, and the people you are uniquely positioned to help. You are in someone's life right now for the specific purpose because they need you. Why do you think that, you hear that saying that people come into our lives for a reason, a season, or a lifetime, right? And why do you think that is? Because we are being positioned for a purpose at a certain point in someone's life. And that's why sometimes everyone that comes into your life doesn't stay, because they were not meant to stay. They were only meant to be a season in your life. Either you helped them or they helped you. And once that job is fulfilled, you keep moving. But you have to learn how to find purpose within your position. How can you help your colleague at the job that you hate, right? Maybe you hate going to work every day. Maybe you hate your manager. You hate your boss. You just hate the environment. But maybe there's someone there that you're supposed to be helping, but you're so caught up in me that you don't even realize that. We have to step out of being so selfish, of believing that the world revolves around us, and instead start asking, how can I be of help to someone else? How can I use my current position to fulfill my purpose? How can you use your gifts and talents to spread goodness? Don't be afraid to step into your purpose. You have to do what scares you and then step out on faith. Because purpose is found in the things that make us uncomfortable. And it's natural. As human beings, we tend to want to stay in the safe zone. We don't want to dip our whole bodies in the ocean, right? Because we're afraid when the waves come that they might overpower us. So we want to stay where it's safe. We want to do what makes us comfortable. But I tell you that if you step out on faith, like Peter on the ocean, when Jesus was calling him, telling him to step out on the ocean, I got you, just have faith and you'll be okay. It doesn't matter how deep in the ocean we are going to be okay. So you have to trust, do what scares you, and step out on faith. We want to win. Everybody wants to win, but nobody wants to fail. No one wants to take the risk that it requires to win, because you can't win unless you try. But you're so afraid to fail that you won't even try. So we never take the chances because we let fear and that voice in our head keep us from fulfilling our purpose and doing what we have been placed on this earth to do. We have to let that go. We have to let go of this concept of what purpose is. We have to start living our purpose in the positions that we are in right now. So this week, I am challenging you. I am challenging you to look within yourself and figure out what purpose you serve right now in the position that you're in. And I would love to hear your feedback on this. I really would. So I encourage you, please shoot me an email, post on the show Instagram page at The Nancy Ruffin Show. You can DM me at my own private Instagram. Although I'm off Instagram, I've been off for the past few weeks. I've been taking a break because I needed to remind myself of what my purpose was. And I feel that social media can sometimes be distracting, and it can be exhausting, and it can take your eyes off of what really matters. And I found myself that I was really getting consumed by other people's content and getting consumed by their own progress or their own success or their own, their number of likes and the engagement that they were getting, that I found myself comparing myself. And I never want to do that. And it's something that I always talk about with you guys. Don't compare yourself to others, because you can get lost and you can forget who you are and you can get distracted from what your purpose is. And that was what was happening for me. So I needed to remind myself of why I started doing this work. And I didn't start doing this work for the likes or for the acknowledgments or for the number of followers that I have. I started doing this because I wanted to help people on a very real level. And so I disconnected, and I'm still doing the work that I love and that I'm passionate about. And I'm out here helping women and men every single day because that is my purpose. And I never want to lose focus of that. So I want you for this week, figure out what your purpose is in your position. Let me know. Let's engage. Let's share, because I promise you, you're not alone. And when you comment and someone reads your comment, they're going to be more inclined to share their own thoughts and their own feelings. And so if you loved this episode, make sure that you subscribe. Please leave us a rating, leave us a review. Tell your friends about the show. Tell them what we're doing here. The only way that I'm going to grow is with you all. And I love you guys. I do this for you. And I'm so appreciative for every week you come up, you show up, and you spend your time with me. You lend me your ears, and I never want to take that for granted. So until next time, mi gente, go out there and crush those goals.
Thank you for listening to The Nancy Ruffin Show.